It's what's going on YouTube? It's Clever Coin. I hope all is well. Today we have the legend North Country Off Grid. Say what's up to the people, bro.
Hey, what's up, guys? I don't know about legend. Maybe in my own mind.
Well, that's how it begins, you know. You have to be a legend in your own mind before you become a legend in real life.
I like that. That works for me. What's up, man? Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, dude, this is a long time coming. It really is a long time coming. I thank you for your time. We usually go for like an hour or so, but we can cut it whenever we want. I'm just gonna say what's up to the chat, let people, come in and out. And so just to let you guys know, chat, North Country Off Grid does not have access to the chat. So if you have a question for him, write a bunch of question marks or, make it very obvious for me, and then I'll go ahead and read it and let him know. So what's up, Pit Bullion, Chef? I see Newton is in the house. Ooh, Miss North Country Off Grid. Thank you so much for stopping by. Terry, how's it going? Silver Heist, I see you. Coin and Ring Guy, everyone, thank you so much for talking to North Country Off Grid. He's gonna turn me into a man, or at least try his best.
I could do that. You should come up here for a week. We'll put some hair on your face.
I mean, I'll take you up on that offer one day, dude.
Very cool, man.
Yeah. So I know that I live in California, but I do have some experience with some, wildlife and especially with cattle, because in Mexico my grandpa has around 50 to 60 cattle. So I've been to feeding them and just herding them and doing all that stuff. So I mean I do work with my hands a little bit.
That's cool. That you know what, dude, it's so hard. It's got to be hard to be from California, where like instantly people are like, "You're garbage."
Yeah, but it's funny because like I get it though,
It's warranted.
Yeah, like I get it. Like I
Yeah.
know when I meet someone, especially like because YouTube is so big, right? Like I have to like, oh, I'm not that kind of person, right? I'm not like a
Right.
socialist, democratic, everything free, pay for my college and no, that's not me, bro. Get out of my space. That's more my style.
Right.
Uh
That's going. So how do you have ties back to Mexico?
oh, my parents immigrated, so I'm first generation, so they immigrated. So that it
Okay.
was ever since I was young, I used to go back and just go out there and I grew up out there when there was no telephones, or even if there was, there was no service. So you would just go for a few hours in the woods and go. I mean, do a lot of stupid stuff as a kid, but that's how you learn. So
So you were off grid at one point, is what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah. But
Nice.
I like my technology. I like my light, and we'll go ahead and get into that. So I'm gonna keep saying what's up to the chat. Kingpin, seduced by Silver. Who else? Nick in here. Silverback Stacker. What's going on, my friend? A bunch of awesome people from the Silver Mafia are in the house. A redneck stacker. But yeah, dude. So let's go ahead and get this started. Off grid, bro. Like, how did that happen? How did you come up with that? And like, what made you do that push? I know we kind of touched on this before, but for the people that haven't watched, go ahead and let them know a little bit.
Yeah, so it just kind of it was life just sort of evolved, I don't know, just getting into the workforce and working for somebody else and getting into that daily grind and getting into mortgages and getting into car payments and all of the bills, and then realizing you're just going to work to sort of feed that beast. There comes a point, and I think most people don't really enjoy it. They just kind of do it. From the feedback that I've gotten, there's tons of people that are unhappy doing it, but they're like stuck in the wheel and can't get out. And we had the family unit and the ability to say, we're leaving. We're going to go and do this. We're going to go live off grid. We're going to build this farm, this homestead. We're going to seek an alternative way of life where we don't answer to people, or we're not a slave to bills. And that's pretty much the biggest thing, is seeing the way society is going. I think we're headed towards a life of serving debt. You're serving a master, and if you don't get out, man, you might be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah. So just let the chat know this guy's literally in the middle of the woods somewhere. So it's his might sound a little choppy here or there, but I'll do my best to try to summarize everything he's saying. So just bear with us, guys. Yeah, so I completely agree with that. We call it the rat race. I'm sure you heard that term around. You're always just running around and working, like you mentioned, for other people. Um, so for me, I'm kind of in a similar situation, except I took the more entrepreneurial route. Why the off-grid route instead of like maybe starting your own business, or did you just decide to cut ties with essentially society so you can be 100% free?
I think a lot of it is the idea of being self-sustaining. Being able to grow our own food. Um, to me, that seems better than, because it's such a big reason. Like, yes, so you start your own business and you're making money, but you still got to pay those bills, and you still got to go to the grocery store, and you still got to buy the food that they deem healthy for you.
Right,
And the
right.
more you dig into this stuff, you realize like our food is not good food. It's not nutritious and it's not healthy, and it's only healthy to an extent that, the USDA says it's healthy or it's acceptable levels of poison, and that's somebody else telling you, you know, they're dictating to you how much poison you should be allowed to put in your body, or that you have to put in your body, and it's for this big growth rate that needs to be taken care of.
Right, right. So essentially, it's just the full extreme. Like, yeah, someone can run their own business and control their finances, but you are like completely top to bottom, well, responsible and free to do what you think is best for you and your family.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a passion there too, like working with animals, having a farm. Like, I think that's such an awesome lifestyle to have. It's not easy, but it's simple.
Right, right.
Um, and then the same way, like, the upbringing of your children. My wife and I don't have to put our kids into school and or daycare, and have other people essentially raising our kids for a period of that time. We are accepting full responsibility of our kids full time.
Right,
We're
right.
accepting full responsibility of our health. It's just taking on the responsibility of yourself and not allowing other people to dictate, or you become dependent on someone or something else.
Yeah, so there's a lot that I want to ask there. So just the pitch itself, was this your idea, or did you and Miss North Country just come together in that agreement, or were you pitching? Did it take a while? How was the pitch? Or is it like, hey, we're just doing this and let's just go get it done? Or did it take some time to be like, hey, yeah, come on, let's go, let's go?
So this was definitely me. We grow up and we're in an area that is like, surrounded by woods. The majority of people up here are outdoorsmen. You grow up camping. So, Shelby had grown up on the lake. She'd grown up in the woods as well. So it's not like, I pulled her out of a big city and then we went and did it. But like, I grew up in the woods. I grew up hunting, and I just love being in the woods, and you'd go camping, and you don't want to leave. When you go camping, you don't want to go back to school the next day. You don't want to have to go back to town, and that feeling of, I just want to stay in the woods, or I want to be there. That's sort of like that happiness or that dream we try to chase, where a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to work, work, work. And then at the end, I'm going to retire and do what I want to do. I just decided I want to work my whole life before I retire. I want to be able to do what I want now. And so it was just kind of, her and I talked about it. We're like, we're not going to do this when we're older. We'd only do it when we're younger. And I know that we would regret doing it or not doing it one day. We'll never regret doing it. We'll never say, man, that was an adventure. Why did we do that? But we would get old and say we should have done it. Because I've heard people tell us now, there's so many people that will message me like, I wish we had done it when we were in our 20s. I wish we would have done it when we were younger. And they're up
Right.
to their eyeballs in debt now, and they don't know how to get out of it. And now they're in their 50s and 60s and want to still come live this life.
Right, and then it's, I assume, much more difficult to go ahead and chop down some firewood or do whatever you have to do to provide for your family. But what you were talking about, it just really made me think about, well, because like I'm in California, pretty opposite. I'm not in the city, I'm in the suburbs, but still the life is very different. And for me, what I see is especially millennials, people my age, have a hard time with like responsibility, right? They want everything done for them, or they don't take responsibility for their actions. But when you're in a situation that you're in, like, there's kind of no choice, right? You have to provide, you
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
Huh?
There's definitely, everything is direct accountability. If like we just ran out of firewood and had to go buy firewood, so that was a direct. That's like I'm accountable for not putting up enough firewood. And now I know for next year how much firewood I need to. If I don't go feed my animals, they don't produce meat, which doesn't make me money, which doesn't feed my family. Like everything is direct.
Right, right.
It's all connected. So there's no blaming anybody else for it. And we're in this time where, especially in California, and especially these areas that are pushing this socialism, these are people who look at what other people have and they say, I should have that too. You should have to share it with me.
Right. Yeah, and it's so
that
so stupid.
idea.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, it doesn't work in the real life. That wouldn't work on the farm. You don't get to look at your neighbor and say, hey, you've got way more cows than me. You owe me money. It doesn't work that way. Everything out here is reality.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's something that is definitely needed. I see the way, the whole society is going, and sometimes I wish, and I thought this before I read the book you recommended, dude, 1 second after, like a solar flare or just something that would happen to come and just like do like a reset, like a hard reset, and it sounds fucked up, but I think it would definitely, just refresh everyone's mind and just go ahead and start anew to really prioritize what's important in life.
Yeah, absolutely, man. There's so much consumerism right now, where people want big houses, they want new houses, they want nice new cars, and it's like, why do you want that stuff if you really think about it? And most people couldn't even tell you what's under the hood of a car.
Right.
They just know that they want a car, and some people do shop the price tag. And I've worked for people doing woodworking, and they want my product. But like to them, it's like, well, I want to pay the price. They don't necessarily care what I gave them. Like I've handed people stuff and they don't care what I gave them, but I charge a lot for woodworking. So, they pay, and I'll make custom pieces and they'll pay for them. And for some people, it's well, I paid this much for it. It's a conversation piece to tell their friends how much they paid for it, and I saw that a lot in cabinet working, where people just pay for shoddy work, but
Right.
because they paid so much, they're happy with it, and it's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, they think because it's expensive, it's worth more. When more often than not, that's definitely not the case.
Or it's the same, or it's the same as the guy that underbid them, but you didn't want to go with them. It's the same work.
Right, right. So I have a few more
But yeah,
questions.
it's that idea of like, why do I want that stuff? And when you really break it down, you really can't answer it. If you're not lying to yourself, you can't answer it to justify, like, why do I need a $60,000 car?
Because you'll look better. Because you'll think that you'll impress
and
people.
there you go.
That's the brutal truth, right? I mean, a $30,000 car versus a $300 car, or not. Let's say not 300. Let's say 3,000 versus 30,000. Like they'll get you where you need to get, but you think you'll I guess I don't know, get more girls or get a better job or insert whatever you think it's gonna make your life better because you have something that's more expensive.
Right.
But and that's kind of, I guess, ingrained in the media, ingrained in just movies
Yeah.
and culture, right? Like, oh,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
have a used
And that's
car?
the culture we're breeding, where, people are following, people like rappers and ball players, idolize these people. And I guarantee you that guy can't even spell. I guarantee you that guy can't read past the 6th grade reading level. So we're not talking about idolizing people for, their skills or abilities, and going back to people's cars, most of those people drive those cars. They don't even know how to change the tire on it.
Right, right.
So out here, I mean, the way I see it, like, your value out here is your abilities. It's what you can do, like I don't have friends over to this place that have cool looking cars. Like if you can't come over here and you don't know how to help out or do something, you're probably not getting invited over because you don't have a value.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean it in like a superficial way, but it's just one of those things where, do you know how to run a chainsaw, or do you just drive a nice car?
Right. I know how to like yeah, I have a $30,000 car, but I don't know how to, like you said, change the tire. But it just really does change the whole dynamic of life essentially, as stupid as that sounds, because like you said, the value of someone in the city might be, their career and their physical possessions, but like the value in, living off grid is like, skills and things that you can actually provide to sustain yourself.
Right. Yeah, and I think that we have this generation that that didn't get caught, or they didn't get taught skills. So now they've learned that whining will, if we whine out enough, they'll give us what we want, or they'll cater to it. So we just have a whiny generation that they don't develop the skills, but they're going to try and get the rewards, and eventually the people with skills are going to say, well, we're not going to provide you with the rewards anymore. And not everyone can suck the teat. Someone's got to get out and work. Someone's got to make the money. I mean, that's just why socialism collapses every single time. So I'm not sure why, as a nation, we're headed down that path, but it's definitely a lack of teaching history.
Yeah, I think it's just the whole like culture just goes back to the culture. Everything is instant gratification, like everything. I think about it. I want internet, I want light, I want everything. I want food. It's all clicks away, feet away. It's all instant. So that thought process just carries on to, free. I want free school. I want you to pay for this. I want you to pay for that. But it's just very short-sighted. And like you said, that's not helping you build the skills or the character to actually do something with your life.
No, and it's not helping build society, because eventually that'll collapse, and it'll be up to somebody. It'll be up to someone to fight a war. Essentially, it'll end in a war, or we'll continue to go this back and forth, back and forth. But I see it as a consistent decline. We're starting to cater towards a lot of these socialist principles, and well, I don't want to get too much in politics, but I don't see it getting better. I see it more on a decline, and I think that living the lifestyle that we live, I think, is a little bit safer of a bet.
Yeah, yeah. But like, just to play devil's advocate here, there are people that do need, there are people that aren't in a similar situation. Everyone is different, and we have to do our best to help either way. And at least in my opinion, I don't think it's the role of the government to help those kind of people. I think, I mean, at least me. I don't know about anyone else, but I try to donate whenever I can. So that's how I feel is a good way to help people in need. Well,
I agree with you. I think I think that when we have programs that help people out, I think that's a beautiful thing. As a society, to be able to help your neighbor when they're hurting is a great thing. But we've developed this society where we don't even like our neighbors, and we don't know our neighbors, and
right.
yet our neighbors are forcing us to, give them a piece of that pie. Um, but I think that should come more from, well, I love my neighbor, so I'm going to help my neighbor out. But
Yeah.
then you got people who just camp out. They camp out on the social welfare, and they're just like into it, and there's no checks and balance
Yeah.
to
That's
say, hey, you've been on welfare for the last 25 years. I'm pretty sure you could have landed a job by then.
right. Right. So it's just hard, the fine line between, rewarding people for a certain behavior instead of actually helping people for a certain behavior. And like you said, I think we're doing a pretty good job to be in that gray area, right?
Well, if you look at some cultures too, like the Mormon religion, they do a great job of taking care of their own people. Like if you're out of work, they'll help you out, but you're expected to go and do work for the community if somebody else needs something done. But they'll keep you afloat, and they'll get you back on your feet. It's a very cool it's a very cool and unique thing that they do. The Amish do it as well. They'll take care of their community.
Right. Yeah, it's super interesting, and I wonder what it is for, just like you said. I think it's almost like a culture shift from the Amish to live life like that. But yeah, I think we definitely need something for people that actually need the help. But it just boils down to this, and then we're gonna get off this topic before we piss someone off. It's like,
Right.
if we can't agree on the role of the government, how can we agree with anything else, right? So if you think that the government should help and really do a lot of things, and if someone else thinks that the government is just there to protect your rights, then if we start from those two different foundations, it's really hard. And I feel like that's also a good that's also a reason why right now everything is so divisive, because we just can't agree on what the role of the government is.
Well, I mean, that is true. But here's the thing is when you are the have nots and you're trying to tell people that they need to give you something, you know, if you went to that person directly and said, "Hey, give me that," they'd say no. So you got to go tell mom and dad. So you got to tell big brother. You know, you got to get the government to tell the haves. You know, enforce the haves. So I mean, you're talking about, you know, defining what government does, but you've got one side where government, you know, people want government to back off, and you've got the other side that is using government as a, you know, as a ploy to be able to leverage, you know, away from the people that have.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean,
Whatever. Let's talk about something else, bro.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, next time we'll do this and we'll have like warnings and just politics and all that. We can touch
Right?
it off. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. Okay, so off grid, what's the hardest part of living off grid?
Oh, everything is a little bit harder. Everything is longer, you know, like we were talking about instant gratification, you know, like if I want warmth, I got to make a fire. If I want light, I don't flip a switch, I got to go light a candle. So it's those little things, you know, all across the board. You know, even building, if I want to build, I either got to use hand tools or I got to fire up a generator. So everything is like it's like two or three steps to accomplish what I want versus the quick and easy on grid flip a switch sort of deal.
Right.
Unless you want to invest a ton in, you know, solar and create a system that's you know, like a turnkey system that's easy to do, but that's a lot of money. It takes a lot of money to convert you know, alternative power to have that, you know, have that real convenient life.
Right. So what is the hardest, or is it just all a little bit harder, or what's the thing that you missed that was more convenient that you took for granted?
Oh man, honestly, I don't even. There's things that we do that I want to do better, or that like we're still working on to do better. But there's nothing that I look back at and say I wish I had that, or I wish it was this easy. Because every day that like every day I'm challenging or doing something out here, you know, every day is it's a small challenge, it's a small push, and none of that is ever bad for building character. You know, constantly pushing yourself, like none of that's bad. Even building, you know, I came from the ability to just, you know, you plug in and you go and you build and you get a bunch done. It's so much harder to build out here the way that I do it, but I enjoy it so much more. So I honestly, I wouldn't say that I would rather go back and do this or I wish I had that. Like I love the life that we live out here, but we are still building things to make things easier.
Oh, I see, I see. So, in that sense, you fell in love with the process of, finding a more efficient way, or just doing it, I guess, the right way, air quotes, like that you think there are. So instead of just turning on a light, or, plugging something into the outlet, you have to, get a chainsaw, or do a different way, and you accepted that that process is worth more than having the convenience of just turning on a switch.
Yeah, man, because the whole thing, you know, all encompassed is a journey. You know, it's all a journey. It's something I'll look back on and be like, you know, that was an adventure that we lived. You know, I didn't do it the easy way, or I didn't, you know, I've had a house and I turned on the light and I never proud of myself for turning on the light,
Oh, really, dude?
you know,
Every time I
or
turn a light,
sticking everything in.
I say yes, yes. Every time, dude, a light switch.
I did it again.
But Miss North Country off grid, she says free flowing water is what I miss the most. Three exclamation marks. That's very
Yeah, yeah.
tacky.
So that, I mean, that's part of, you know, that's part of developing our systems and you know, making things more convenient. I would have to say that hauling water is the hardest thing we do out here. If we had a well, then we'd be able to plumb everything and everything would work. You know, or at least water systems would be a lot better. But hauling water is probably the most difficult thing that we have to do because we have to go get it. We got to keep it from freezing. We got to utilize it. So that's the pain in the butt. But in the next cabin we're building, I plan on developing the plumbing system to make Mrs. North Country happy.
Yeah, and Redneck Stacker, he's been doing a great job plugging in your channel, by the way. So thank you, Redneck. He says, "Don't you miss having running toilet, a running toilet?"
No, man. So, this is a weird thing, and I'm sure Shelby already put it into the chat, but like, there's something enjoyable about having to go out to an outhouse. Like we've got a half door on the outhouse, so when you're using it, you're looking out into the trees, into the world.
Uh-huh.
But there's, like, okay, so we were talking about earlier when you back things off and look at it in perspective, it's kind of gross that you'll go to the bathroom inside your house. We're just all used to it as a culture, and it's something that we do. But I mean, how many times have you like walked into a bathroom after someone else? You're like, oh man, or it's wafting out into the room and you're looking at your girlfriend like, oh, can she smell that? You know what I mean? Like it's those awkward things. But when you walk outside and you deal with it and come back in, there's no stink that you have to put everyone through.
Right, that's actually a very valid point. Like I never really thought about that. But what about like I guess it all comes back down to like sheer convenience, right? You wake up in the middle of the night and you go pee and then it turns out you have to poop. Like imagine going down, just I guess it's just convenience. Silver Saint
Yeah.
77 has a question. Do the kids go to public school? Question mark.
No, the kids are homeschooled. Idaho is like one of the worst ranked education systems there is. And we just kind of got tired of it, and it's like, it's everything else, it's everything else we just talked about. When you rely on the government to educate your kids, you just accept what they teach your kids, and I really I went through public school and you think, oh, this is the route. Like, this is what you do, and we always made fun of the homeschooled kids.
Right.
But, the homeschooled kids, they just learn better because they're learning. I don't mean to, if I offend anyone, go ahead and write Clever Coin. But
Yeah, blame me, dude.
kids in private school, kids at homeschool, they learn and they do better than kids in public school, generally, overall. And it's just one of those things where when you get taught something, but then you go read on it yourself and you realize what you were taught was bullshit, you start to question what else you learned that you were taught that was bullshit. And because I'm big on reading and I'm big on learning about stuff. So I've learned about a lot of things from different points of views, and you realize like, oh, the narrative was just being controlled when that was taught to me, and I don't agree with it, or that's inaccurate, or it was just a blatant lie. So it's stuff like that where it's like, why would I send my kids to a school to just continue, keep the wheel rolling, keep that rat race going?
Yeah, and then like I feel your kids are building certain skills that they just can't get from public school, right? Living off grid, I'm sure you always need that for something around the house, or help with the animals. Just skills that are also very very important for them to build.
Yeah, and like with that, we like to apply. The classroom is not the only place to learn. So like when we're doing math, we'll be building something and then talking about units of measurement. And to me, it's much easier to retain fractions when you're applying it to a piece of wood or you're showing it to them, and they're understanding it because you're applying it at the time versus just learning from a book. Not everyone learns the same way. And some kids, they can read the book and they understand it. Some kids have to be shown it, but that's not what we have in school. We have this all encompassed kind of move the herd through and hope everyone got it.
Right. Yeah, I think it's definitely a lot of different kind of, every kid is different to teach a certain way to learn. So it's
Yeah.
just hard to have 30 kids in a classroom and teach them the most effective way, right, when everyone is so different.
Right. And then the kids will split it up themselves where kids won't pay attention, and then certain kids are trying to pay attention, but the other kids are, stopping them from paying attention. It's a very disruptive learning environment, which is funny because I wasn't like a great student. Like school was very easy for me. I got everything, but I also knew where the fine line was where I was allowed to mess around.
Right.
So I'm sure I distracted a few people, but I just never, like, I didn't care until I went to college and I was paying for it. That's when I cared about my education, and I put my head down and I focused, and I did really well. But also, like, that was a huge learning experience for me because I realized how remedial college education was. And granted, this is coming from a community college, which just makes me think, well, the whole thing's a racket then, because I would go and I would have the stupidest classes. Like, I would just do the dumbest things, or you'd have the dumbest conversations. And if you ever take a sociology class, everyone from 14 to 40 is Dr. Phil. It's amazing. Like, it's just like, what are we doing? We're just sitting in here arguing, and people are pretending like they're worldly and know what they're talking about, when nobody in here really has experience in life at all.
Yeah, dude, my girlfriend's a fifth grade teacher in a public school, so she's like, "Oh, we need to talk after this."
Get your stuff together, lady. And I guarantee that she teaches what she's told to teach, right?
No, she knows. I mean, that's why I'm with her, dude. Like, she knows. Let me say what's up to the chat. They've been going at it. We kind of let them go for a little bit too long, so I'm a little behind, chat. A lot of people are saying that they're scared of spiders when they go to go use a toilet outside. I think Yankee's in the house, JT's in the house. Who else? Coin and Ring Guy says, "Did you ever get your tractor running?"
It's buried under snow, man. Come on, guys.
It's buried under snow. Come on. Yeah, dude. See, that's something I don't even have to worry about, snow. Pit Bullion says, "Clever, can you feel your beard hairs growing right now?" Yes. Let's see. So just like an interesting transition, because I guess I know Clever is hot for teachers. Yeah, I was gonna say a very inappropriate joke, but I will hold that one in. Okay. I need to do like
That's good stuff. Homeschooling jokes. I get it. I think it's funny too.
No, it's not a homeschooling joke. I'll tell you the joke after. It's a very inappropriate joke, and people will definitely get offended.
Okay.
And let's see. Let's go with so Silver. This is a Silver channel. We've been going for about 30 minutes now. I kind of I guess this is a Silver channel. So how did that come in?
How did Silver come in?
Yeah, into your life, like, because you've been going kind of heavy. You even talked about having what? My girlfriend's waving. Are you leaving?
Yeah.
Okay, bye. Sorry, my girlfriend's
bye,
gone.
babe.
He said bye, babe.
Bye.
Shit. Now I'm all lost.
How did Silver come in?
Oh yeah. Oh no, you were mentioning that you use Silver as like a motivator for your kids to go ahead and do things around the house, or with the animals. So I guess it definitely has impacted your life in a way, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it all came around because I watched the Farkas. I watched his channel and
Wait, sorry. Can you repeat that? I didn't catch any of that one.
Pay attention, bro.
No, it's like you're in the woods.
Okay. The channel, the Farkas, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, but his original channel, I somehow found it one night, and like he was showing his leg chopped off, right?
Uh-huh.
All right, so this is what happened. I watched this YouTube video of a guy up on a cell tower, and he's like filming up on the tower and looking down, and I'm like, yeah, right, man, I'd never do that job, right? And so, and I was eating steak. I was having a steak dinner, and I'm sitting there eating it and looking at it, and he goes to his next video, and all of a sudden his leg is removed. It's gone, and he's showing his stump.
Wow.
And I'm just like, what is this about? So I went back and I was like, I want to know this guy's story. And I went back and he started talking about Silver and this and that. And I just started like telling him like, hey man, it's really cool that, you lost your leg and you're doing your thing, man. That's awesome. Cause he was like, I'm going to get motivated and get back on my feet. And so I just started supporting him. I thought that was just such a cool thing for a person to do. And he wound up giving me Silver, later on down the road. He decided to do a giveaway and he just gave it to me. He said, listen, I'm going to give this to you. I challenge you to finish the tube. Gave me a couple of half-ass rounds. now that I'm thinking of it, I've filled that tube up halfway, but I haven't done the rest. I probably should.
So he
But
gave you a
that's what.
tube? Sorry, you were cutting off again. He gave you a tube?
Yeah, he gave me a tube with 2 half-ounce rounds in it,
Okay.
and then he challenged me to fill it. And then I was just kind of like, what? Like, you explain it to me. And so he gave me his reasons as to why he stacks, and I'm like, man, that makes total sense. And so that it just snowballed from there. So with that, my kids got interested in that. They thought the coin cool, but then I turned it into more, and I said, look, I'm gonna start paying you guys every month in silver. So now they get an ounce of silver every month when they do their chores. So they do their chores, they get paid for it. If they don't do their chores, or if we have to tell them, like, did you do this or whatever, they get strikes for not doing it. If they do strike, they don't get paid for the month.
Right. So
Get paid.
a lot of people are saying that, shoot, you pay me in silver, I'll adopt me, or I'll move in and I'll work for silver. The chat's saying.
Well, it's silver now, so it's I'm still paying my kids $15 a month to do their chores. As silver fluctuates, they will just get $15, and they'll have to wait until the next to go get silver.
Yeah, that's what Miss North Country says, that unless spot gets too high.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a cool way of learning. That I'm teaching them, and they're understanding the silver market. They're understanding the value. And with spot fluctuation, they learn that, well, when it goes up, it goes up. When it goes down, it goes down. So they're learning it, and I didn't even know about it until I was 32 years old. So
yeah,
they're learning.
yeah, they have a big heads up on most of the people in the world right now.
Yeah, they're earning a wage.
Yeah, Pit Bullion says break the kids' piggy bank at $50 silver.
Do what? Break
Yeah.
it open?
Yeah, break the kids' piggy bank at $50 silver is what Pit Bullion said.
Yeah, that's up to them. I don't know. That's up to them.
So what's the most important? Go ahead.
Good.
No.
Go ahead.
Oh, so like, what's the most important skill that you think was that you didn't like? What's the most important skill that you didn't think you would need, but you now realize that you need? Or were you always so adept and had access to all the skills you needed to make that jump to live off grid?
There's trades that I struggle in or don't have experience with, and so I build around that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know anything about electrical or plumbing, so I will just build something without it, and just be like, well, I don't need to put a solar panel on this because I don't know how to hook it up for the lights. So that's probably my biggest flaw, is I'll just dodge the things that I don't know. Well, those two things specifically. But I've really decided, or I've really started to, like, learn trades or learn skills every year. Build something new, learn about a new animal, how to take care of it. And I jump into everything, and I learn as much about it as I can. But I kind of, I basically, growing up like that, it sort of molded me for this, which made the transition to it very easy. If
Right.
I didn't have the knowledge on how to build, if I didn't have the trade of being able to build, this would be a huge task out here. Like learning how to build while homesteading or while living off grid would make things a lot more difficult. For me, I can get stuff done smoothly and build, and shelters, one of the biggest things that you absolutely need out here. So, I mean, there's things that I lack in, but I also have the mindset of I can learn and do absolutely anything.
Right, and which I think is definitely a pivotal, set a mindset to have for living off grid, dude. I genuinely cannot imagine doing that. So that's why I'm so interested in your story and how you live, and thank goodness you have that YouTube channel, right? And you just document a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that you're leaving out, but you do a great job just documenting it, and then someone like me can just not live through it, but experience it, at least a small percentage of it, and get a new grasp. And at the end of the day, just be grateful for the fact that I have, you know, electricity and a lot of things. If anything, if that's what people will take away from it, I think you're doing something super amazing by letting us know that, hey, don't take this for granted. Even though you're choosing to do something because you think it's better for you and your family, you know,
Yeah.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, you know, and that's probably the one of the it's probably one of the only reasons I continue to do YouTube is because, you know, both sides of the spectrum, it does motivate people. You know, being able to watch what we do, you know, there's actually there's a surprising number of people that want to do what I do or wished that they had done what, you know, that what we do, living off grid, or, you know, because this was, you know, off grid living and homesteading is sort of like this, it's like this new wave coming through, but it's not a new idea. You know, back in like the 60s and 70s, I believe they called it like back to earthing. So this concept of like getting out of the rat race and the industrialization and going back to the land, you know, and living like a pioneer, it's not a new concept. It's just now we're able to document it on YouTube and people are starting to pick up on it, you know, and they're being exposed to it, you know, but it's amazing how many people look at it and admire it. You know, and even from a standpoint of the family, you know, a lot of people see how close my family are. A lot of people will compliment us for our, you know, our kids, you know, when they meet our kids, like we're huge on showing respect and being polite and knowing your manners. You know, and when we go places, pretty much anytime we go out to dinner, we will always be told our kids are so well behaved, and then they thank us because we don't leave a giant mess on the table. And like we'll have waiters and waitresses sit and talk with us, and they're like, man, kids come in here and just destroy this place, and like the parents don't care at all. They just pay us and then leave, and we're just with this huge mess. And like we make our kids, or we teach them to order their menu or to order their meal, say thank you, you know, be polite the entire time. When someone fills up your cup of water, don't ignore that person that just came to your table and gave you water. Tell them thank you every single time.
Right. Just think about like growing up, um, living off grid or homesteading, and you know that you have to go to a well to get water, and then you go to a restaurant and then someone just brings you water. Like the thank you for me is just automatic, right? It's just like what you do to have good manners, like, oh, thank you.
Right.
But at
Right.
that point, that thank you is like a genuine thank you. Like you know what I'm saying?
Well, no, I mean, it's that extreme. It's not where like, we're, you know, we're so sparse for us. It's respecting other human beings. May guarantee you they probably don't want to be being a server. That's
Right.
probably not their life's goal. You know, they're in a place in their life, in their journey where that's where they're at. You know, and to say, you know, to show that person respect and say, hey, thank you. You know, that's the right thing to do.
Right, right.
So that's what we stress on our kids, you know, is, you know, respect people for who they are and what they're doing, you know, and you can't judge people for what they're doing, you know, or where they're at, because you don't know that person's story. So for you to ignore that person coming over to like that one, because they notice it. When they come to your table and you ignore them, notice it, and that could affect their day, and most likely affects their day negatively. And if you think, you know, I'm just a waiter, they didn't even tell me thank you, you know, I'm not, you know, negatively affecting someone's life because you feel that you're better than or not respect to that person, you know, and it's just about improved society.
Yeah, no, it's definitely just about like you said, it's the right thing to do. And like you were mentioning, you kind of cut off, but I think I got most of it. It's just like kind of like the butterfly effect. You don't know, maybe that smile, that person was having a bad day, and then you treat them very well, and then instead of doing something bad, they, you know, turn a leaf and do something good, or you know, it just every little thing that we do has a bigger effect. There was a question for you from Redneck Stacker. Again, thank you so much for throwing up the link, man. I appreciate it. How old are you and how long have you been living off grid for? And like 12 question marks.
I am 33 years old right now, and we have been living off grid. This is going into our 5th year of living off grid.
Wow. Yeah, so 5 years, people. He's 75 years old and he's been living off grid for 5 years. No, I'm just playing.
That's a degree, guys. I have a degree in off grid living.
Yeah. I think there was one more question, but Shelby answered it. They were asking about a home birth, but she has to get a C-section. So thank you so much for answering that question. I think there was one more, dude. I'm trying to pay attention, but sometimes the questions just go by pretty fast. Yeah, I think Seduced by Silver asked a silly question. She says, "Are you gonna live stream the birth?" Let's go with no.
We haven't talked about it.
Oh yeah, and
It
then I
hasn't been
see
discussed.
um Silver saying it's hard to meet a girl who wants to go live off grid. What are your recommendations or suggestions for him? And hello, SJ.
Yeah,
Thank you for stopping by.
that's a huge deal. You know, that's a huge deal. If you want to have a family off grid, you have to find someone that's willing to live a life, you know, that's so far outside of the social norms, you know, and not, you know, and hopefully not be a weird person, you know, because most people who, you know, are willing to, you know, live like a, you know, a hippie, or, you know, they're very eccentric, or they're, you know, they're on the borderline of weird, you know, a lot of the times. Doesn't mean they're not a good person, but, you know, if you're looking for, you know, someone like Shelby's a very normal person. When you look at her, you wouldn't even kind of think that she might be someone that lives off grid. You know, if you looked at me, you might assume I live in a cave somewhere. But, you know, it's just one of those things where you've got to have a partner in your life that's willing to, you know, live out your dream or trust you and do what you want to do, you know, or see the value in it and isn't afraid to go after it based off of, you know, social constraints.
Yeah, everyone's asking for all you need to do is build an off-grid dating site.
Yeah, maybe I'll set up a off-grid advice giving, like a relationship advice giving site.
Yeah,
You
because that
guys can pay me in corn.
that's like a huge deal, man. Like, what if this was something that you genuinely wanted to do and your partner had no interest in it, right? It'd be a very interesting predicament to be in because, especially if it's really calling you and you feel this is what you have to do with your life, and then someone,
Yeah.
you know. So I mean, congrats for you, and you're a lucky man, dude.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it would either be, you know, you'd either have to give up on one of the two, you know, or hopefully you've got, you know, someone who says like, well, why don't we go try it and see how it works out? You know, I mean, there's limited options there. You're not gonna have somebody come out and live this life that doesn't want to be a part of it. You know, Shelby's such a big help out here with the stuff that she does as well. You know, if I was living this life and she was just sitting inside the cabin resenting me for it, it would never work out.
Hmm.
With that said, though, Shelby and I are about to do 13 years of marriage on the 13th of this month, and
Wow, congrats.
that's a big deal for people our age. You know, most Shelby knows a lot of people that are already on their first divorce. You know,
Right.
in your 30s,
Well, what's the stat
and
now? It's 55% of marriages end in divorce or something like that.
I thought it was like 60. I thought we were over 50 now, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, so
But I mean, yeah, that's, you know, that's a huge thing. You know, like people aren't staying married anymore. You know, and if you look at, you know, people aren't staying married. Where are we headed as a society? You know, there's things that are happening. There's trends that are happening, and we're not breaking away from them. And it's not building society. It's making things worse. It's taking it in a negative decline. And I think that we have to be able to do, you know, out of the norm. We got to be able to pull, you know, get out of that line and say, I'm not going to do it. I'm over here. You know, and I think that that's something that Shelby and I have definitely done. You know, we don't allow outside influences to dictate, you know, the quality of our marriage. You know, we work on each other. We're dedicated to each other, and we are dedicated to our kids. You know, we're absolutely dedicated to growing our kids with, you know, the same parents, you know, and bring them up the way our grandparents all lived. You know, our grandparents, you know, I think their marriage rate was all like 80%.
right,
I
right.
mean, you didn't get divorced back then. You know, now it's so common, and we're watching people on TV. There are role models that are married for 24 hours, or
Yeah.
they're married for a week. You know, and they're getting their third divorce. You know, these are the people that we're seeing, and these are the influences we have. So the more we see that, the more we say, well, that's okay behavior, and then we repeat that behavior. We just have shitty role models, and that probably needs to change.
Yeah, I think it's the pendulum always swings the other way and like super aggressive, right? Like it be whatever it is. Like you said, the divorce rate 50 years ago compared to the divorce rate now. It just anything instead of it just coming to the middle where it should be, it just swings far right or far left. Not even talking about anything in particular or politics or anything, but like you said, the let's just take the divorce rate back 50 years ago. It was very very rare. Now it's more often than not. And I'm kind of in the similar situation because I'm at the end of this month I'm gonna be with my girlfriend for 8 years, and I'm 25 though, so that's
Wow,
like
dude.
that's a big deal. Yeah, so
So are you not into marriage or what?
it's like this is getting very personal. But I think there's things that I want to accomplish that I feel at least this is what I told myself, right? Things that I want to do, things that I want to, I don't know, check off before I get married. And then they're not like, doing bad things, but it's um just certain goals that I wanted to hit, and I'm getting closer, right? But I don't know. I was talking to someone about it. Uh, I'm just gonna say it, Yankee. I was talking about it, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, like you just wait a few more years, and I'm happy. Everything's great, so it's not like I'm messing anything up or." But we're getting close, man. It's getting close.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that I mean you shouldn't just get married because you're supposed to get married.
Right, right.
It should be something that you both want and you're invested in. The idea of marriage to me, that commitment, like I'm a fiercely loyal person. So like, if you're my friend, I've got your back no matter what. If you're my girlfriend, if you're my wife, you know what I mean? Like there's no cheating, there's no infidelity or nothing. There's no even kind of crossing the line. So to be able to tell, I want to, I've got your back. To me, that's and it's the full thing. That's got to be for the person.
Yeah, so sorry you got cut off there. I'm just gonna let them know what you were talking about. He was pretty much saying loyalty. If you're his friend, he got your back no matter what. So just imagine, being his wife or his family, and I think that's kind of where I land too. Um, just loyalty is super super important to me, and I think it's something that's very very underrated nowadays. I'm gonna go back check back to the chat. There's a bunch of good questions. Shout out to Red X Stacker, bro. This guy's actually asking great questions. Um, where up north does where do you live? In what state, I guess?
We're in north at the top of the Panhandle. We're within 200 miles of Canada.
200 miles from Canada. So I think Redneck Stacker's Canadian. Jesus Christ. I have the worst memory right now. Dude, it's so hard reading the chat, having a conversation, and trying to remember stuff. That's like the hardest thing. Congratulations to Yankee. I think he's gonna do 25-year anniversary. So
Nice, very
silver
cool.
anniversary. Congratulations. I'm going to expect a video on that. Wait, I thought you were off grid. How do you have internet and cable TV? Question mark was from Redneck Stacker. Again, he's on point, killing it with these questions.
Yeah, we don't have cable TV. We don't have TV. We don't sit and watch TV. We felt like that was one of the things that, one of the things that really divides a family the most is when, you all kind of split and go watch your own TV shows. And like I was saying, when you got these bad influences in front of your face all the time, you got to change that stuff, and you can't just say, well, they're bad influences, but I'm going to watch them. You really got to step away from those, negative temptations or those negative influences and just say, I don't want my kids, you can tell kids like, hey, it's a scary movie, but don't be scared. But
Right.
then when you show them horrific images, those images still stick with them. It still affects their life in a certain way. And a lot of times, like if a kid doesn't scream or cry, we assume it didn't negatively affect them. But those images, they did affect them. They had an effect on their life. So if we're showing them just shit on TV all the time, we're negatively affecting their life and just assuming that it's not. But no, there's no power. I somehow have cell service on my phone.
Yeah, so that's how we're talking. His cell phone is how he is here live with us. Shout out to you, Nova Stacker. Thank you so much for stopping by. I think there was a question from shoot, where is it? What games do you do at night as a family? Games. Sorry, what do you do at night as a family? Games? Question mark.
Yeah, so we do different game. We have like a card game. It's like a family card game passed on from Shelby's side of the family, and it's something that we all like to play. We've got kids that are big on reading, so they like to just sit and read at night, or they'll play with toys, or they'll like my one little girl just sewed my hat for me.
Nice.
Like in my video, I've got my fuzzy hat and it's got a big hole in it, and people are always asking me what that hole's about. And my daughter just sewed it up for me tonight as the sun was going down.
Wow.
So it's just little family stuff like that. We'll just kind of sit. Like I just got a banjo for my birthday, so I've been playing the
Solid.
banjo like a true redneck. And so like I'll sit around and play for a little bit, and everyone will just kind of meander around me and exist and listen and stuff. But we're always just doing stuff as a family together.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Silver Saint 77, for stopping by. You have a good night, my friend. Yankee, stop being mean to Novice, bro. That's so rude calling him but ugly. But what I wanted to touch on that is like I would mention, I would go to Mexico and there was nothing to do there. So honestly, and we would do this for hours, would be to grab a rock and hit a tree. So there's like 4 or 5 of us, and then we would just work on our accuracy trying to hit a tree, and then we'll like, oh, you did it from here. I'm gonna go further out, or like
Yeah.
just games like that, dude. And these games were so fun, man. And then I just
So you're how old are you?
I'm 25.
You're you're 25. Okay, so like you're kind of used to cell phones being around your entire life, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I I didn't have a cell phone when most people have a cell phone now. Like kids have cell phones in like elementary school now. I didn't have that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
When we grew up, it was still the landline. Like people called your landline. Like
yes,
the first Motorola cell phone had just come out, but like your parents weren't rich enough to have that thing.
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
But it's like back then when we used to play, we would go outside and be bored, and you'd figure out what to do to be not bored. And that meant grabbing sticks and rocks and raising hell.
Yeah.
But now kids just grab their phones and they sit down and have someone entertain them. And my wife says it all the time. Kids nowadays don't know how to be bored. And it's kind of the way we're sort of on that. We're on that ledge where like we grew up using our imagination when we got bored, and now there's kids who have grown up who don't need to even have an imagination because the phone, their tablet or whatever, is just entertaining them.
Right, yeah, I think it does I mean it can be good or bad, right? Like the convenience of having a tablet and a phone and TV is great, but at what cost? Creativity, like you said. Nowadays, dude, like if I'm going to go to the bathroom, I take my phone with me, dude. That can't be healthy, you know what I mean? Like that's not good. But again, I'll be playing a game, going through Instagram, just doing something. Like you can't
I
just
think that's
enjoy
actually
the
better.
moment.
I think
Yeah.
that's better because then you're not rushing. You're not rushing. You're taking your time, which is important.
Well, I guess so. See, there you go. It's and this is the older that I've gotten, the more I've interacted with people in the community, the more I realize that things aren't always black and white.
No,
There's a
usually,
gray
usually
area.
not.
And what you see and what I see are not the same thing, even though we're looking at the same object, right? So it's just crazy, and that's the beauty of life, right? It's like and now our jobs, I think, should be doing our best to communicate our opinions while we do our best to actually listen what other people are thinking and saying, right?
Yeah, I think you should always be able to. You should always be able to understand where someone's coming from, whether or not you agree with them or not. You should always be able to understand that person's point of view. If you can't, then you're being narrow-minded. Even if the point is stupid. Like I was joking with Yankee Stacking about like flat Earth versus round Earth. Like we've all grown up being told the Earth is round, but there's a huge movement of flat Earth people.
Right, right.
But you should sit. I mean, you should sit and listen. Like, oh, you think it's flat? Tell me why. I'll listen to it. Not just shut someone down and say, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's definitely not a productive way or to start a conversation, right? But yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, we've been going for almost an hour now, so do you want to talk about the flat Earth?
I don't care about flat Earth
Okay,
one
because
bit.
I thought that you genuinely believed the Earth was flat for like
No,
a few
no,
weeks.
no. I think there's some interesting arguments about flat Earth. There's definitely most people points. There's definitely some talking points when you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that is odd. But I no, I don't believe that the Earth is flat.
Yankee told me to mention the moon landing.
Moon landing was fake for sure. Yankee's old, man. He drank the Kool-Aid back when, NASA was all up in your face and it was on the three channels that came onto your TV in black and white. That's when Yankee grew up. So he drank that Kool-Aid and he believes we made a telephone call from the moon all the way back down to Earth. And yet I'm struggling to get service here on my cell phone in 2019 talking to California.
Yeah.
Come on. Come on, Yankee. Do the math, buddy.
I think there's definitely some, the images, didn't it turn out that like a lot of them were faked or altered, with like strings on the astronaut's back and whatnot. So, I mean, what I think is definitely those are clearly fake, right? But maybe we did, and we just couldn't take pictures up there, so they were just trying to BS some pictures to show people. I mean,
I
I
think
don't
it was I think it was too convenient. It was there was a push to run or to win the Cold War,
know. Right.
and to beat Russia. We had to beat Russia. We had to beat Russia to the moon. So like why not just say we did it and then make a video about it? No other nation has been to the moon. No other nations landed on the moon. The Russians never made it. So you're telling me that we made it back then and they still haven't figured it out yet?
No, yeah. My point is like what I always find weird is okay. When was the moon landing? The 60s something, mid 60s.
64?
So yeah. So it's 2019, bro. We should have like what I'm saying. Like we should have been there a few more times, or like why?
Right. Well, the reason that that NASA says that we can't is because we threw away the technology on accident. We erased over all the tapes, and we can't figure out the technology. So they pretend it was this thing that we figured out. We got lucky. We got there, and now we can't remember how we did it.
That is
With the best and brightest minds of 2019, we cannot go back to the moon today with
yeah,
with
no,
the technology we have, but we did it on the technology of a calculator in 1964. It's
yeah.
ridiculous to think that we did it.
No, that I never heard of that, but whatever you just said is fake news, bro. That doesn't sound real. Like, how can you tell me that you don't know the technology when we surpassed it times 10, but I don't know, man. That's definitely shady, dude. Can
Yeah.
you really imagine this though, for real, for real? Like, just imagine if the Earth was actually flat. Like, what would happen, dude?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how it affects us or does. Like I think my number one question would be what is on the other side? What's on the other side? If we're flat, what's on the bottom side?
I don't know, man.
That would be my ultimate question. I don't necessarily buy it because I've been on a cruise ship before. I've been out on the ocean, and you can see a slight curvature of the Earth.
Sorry, something
It
about a cruise
looks.
ship. You were cutting off again.
Yeah, I've been out on a cruise ship before while the sun is setting, and you can see the curvature of the Earth while the sun sets. It
Hmm.
doesn't look flat because you can see for so long. You can see the roundness of it.
Shout out to Vulcan. Thank you for stopping by. He says the other side's on the other side, bro. Like, come on. No,
It's a good point.
for me, I've been to Japan, which is around the world. So I've traveled around the world. I mean, but I know people make the argument, well, you can just travel on a flat plane, but it just sounds cooler to say you traveled around the world because then I can't say I traveled around the world. So do
Japan's not really around the world though.
I mean,
From where you're
Australia?
at, it's like a hop, skip, and a junk. Like the other end or the other side of the world from you is like would be like India or the Middle East.
I'm pulling up a map right now of the world. All
Flat
I know is
one
that
or
that
a
was like
round one?
that's for the chat to assume. The chat, I'm pulling up a map of the Earth. Is it flat or is it round?
Don't be biased. You pull them both up.
Yeah, dude. Sorry
Well,
for.
in the way that the map is shown, they make it look like Russia is so far away from us, but the closest point of Russia is only 2 miles off of
Wait, you're
American
so
coastline.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it is the way that the map is drawn, and that map's been drawn for how long? Like, how did we map so well?
Yeah. So
How accurate is it?
yeah, who knows? But all I know is that Yankee says I could list 101 reasons that prove we did not land to the moon. So next Thursday, we're gonna have Yankee stacking on to wake us up about the truth about the moon landing, guys. Um,
Yeah, so that's cool. Have you ever thought the other side of it though, Yankee? Have you ever given validity to the idea and really thought about it versus shutting it down? Because Clever Coin and I just talked about how you don't just shut down people's ideas. You got to think about where they come from. He's clearly not listening, Clever Coin.
yeah, it's okay. It's okay. He's too old, you know. It's hard to teach him a
Can't
new
teach him
dog.
new
Yeah,
tricks.
it happens. It's gonna happen to all of us eventually.
Well, and then, you go back to, what people are fed, and you look at 9/11, which is, arguably one of the biggest conspiracy theories around, and there's diehard on both sides. They'll say, no, we were attacked and that's it. And there's people who are like, those buildings did not fall down from a plane strike. Why are you guys
Tower
believing
7.
this?
Tower 7.
Yeah. You're telling me that building imploded from debris, papers and shit falling on the roof?
Yeah, dude.
Tower Seven's like what, 5 blocks away or some shit?
I don't know, bro. All I know is that for a brief moment in time in my life, I found Alex Jones and I was freaking out for like a month and a half and I was like, fuck, I'm done. I don't care anymore. Whatever, bro. It's over. Like, no, I'm done. So
Yeah, I think we were lied to.
that's where I'm at with conspiracy theories. I don't got like the capacity to do the research. I sometimes I listen to smarter people, much smarter people than me, and like I said, if there's a video that talks about why the Earth is flat, I'll watch it, and I haven't seen anything to convince me that the Earth is flat. Um, so that's just what I think. But again, there's other things like we're talking about Tower 7. To me, I still think 9/11 happened. Wasn't an inside job. I don't know. The JFK one definitely is like, whoa, you know.
JFK for sure got shot from both directions. As a person who has shot animals and things with high-powered rifle, I can tell you that his head snapping backwards is not a shot from the back. That is a shot from the front.
Dude, that's such a crazy video. I don't want to talk about it. We can talk about it. But dude, yeah, I have so many. Yeah, we need one day. I'm gonna like. Can I just make a video age restricted, like one live stream, or do I have to make my whole channel that? Because there's a lot of stuff that I want to get into, but I know that there's some kids watching, you know. So I try to watch my mouth most of the time and not talk about certain subjects. But
I
yeah,
don't
dude.
know. Will they shut you down if you are you not allowed to talk a certain way on live stream?
No, this is just for like my personal, you know, knowing that there's kids watching, right?
Oh, I got you.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure you said the F bomb tonight,
Yeah,
buddy.
you know, but
So
this is like PG-13. It's not rated R quite yet. We're on that line. But yeah, no, the JFK one for sure is like super suspicious to me. And there's another
yeah,
like a ton of those that are like very suspicious to me. But I have a hard time, not believing, but just doing the research and not just taking what someone says for face value, right? And I think
yeah,
that's also what we do a lot too. We read a headline, not even an article now, dude. You just read a
yeah.
headline and you just this is fact now. Like,
Yeah, like people will get the quick little Facebook highlight, and I catch because I don't do Facebook. Our farm page has a Facebook. I've never had a Facebook. I've never liked the idea of it. But I realize that people are getting their education from Facebook where they'll just regurgitate what they saw on Facebook and not even necessarily reading an article. And it's like you don't even know who put that up. And you're regurgitating it like it's gold.
right, right. Yeah, no,
That's dangerous. That's a
you know the
dangerous
one
way to go
that
through life.
scared me. I don't know if you heard about it. I think you watched Joe Rogan sometimes when he had the guy that was saying that Russians are just like there's like a office filled with like Russian people trying to push a certain narrative. So if it's like Black Lives Matter or red pill people, and then just try to find something to piss the other side off, and then they just put a bunch of money, a bunch of people to push that information on, and that's how certain things have like come like shed light to them because of the Russians. Like that blows my mind too, dude. That's so crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Technology is a dangerous beast, man. Like it's like who's on the other side of the curtain. Like who's putting this information out.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to know like right now what's real and what's not. Like the first thing like my parents are older, and when they started to get into the internet, Facebook and all that, I was like, first thing, this is the first thing I told them: don't believe anything you read online.
That's awesome.
The first thing I told them, like, don't believe anything you read online. And then ever since then, they'll be like, oh, look at this. This cures cancer. Don't believe. And they're like, dude, that's no. So it's just, that's the first thing I told them. And I have to remind them every once in a while, don't believe anything you read online.
Yeah, so the flip side of that too, as you get out to, when you start homesteading, you start growing your own food and you start looking into the food situation in this country, you start to realize that there's a lot of products and a lot of food that's much healthier for you than you're being led to know.
Right.
And you're also being fed a bunch of bullshit from like the medical industry. Well, they'll say this doesn't work, don't use that, or it's dangerous for you. Like I read a study about how coconut oil was dangerous for you. But you find out who did the study or who paid for it, and it's like the people of canola oil
Yes.
are the ones who, you know what I mean?
Yes.
They'll demonize things that are good for you, just like cannabis. Cannabis is demonized, and it's got such great properties that are beneficial to people's health, but instead it's like, no, you just need chemo. Go do chemo.
Yeah, no, I think pharmaceutical, big pharma definitely plays a role. But again, I'm not saying that I'm against vaccines because, I mean, that's also a very interesting thing that, I mean, the good thing I don't have kids, but yeah, get your kids vaccinated, or
Dude,
not.
well, or not. Vaccines are a touchy subject, man, because a lot of vaccines come out, and there's not enough time behind them, or you find out like, oh, we started giving flu shots, and then you constantly hear like, because we don't get flu shot, and we're never sick. My family's never sick. We live pretty close like to the world though, and I feel like that has a lot to do with it. Like the outside temperature, we're in it a lot. We don't go from outside when it's 10 degrees to an inside home of 75 degrees and then have to go back and forth through the extremes. We kind of live in a moderate temperature, and I think that keeps us healthier. But you'll hear about like, we gave this vaccine, this flu vaccine, and then they'll tell you, oh, well, it was the wrong strain of flu. So they're just not saying all those vaccines were useless this year because it was the wrong strain of flu this year.
Yeah, man.
But they still took your money.
Yeah,
They're not going to give you a return on it.
I think that's definitely like a touchy subject, but just I don't know. I'm gonna stay out of it because I've seen people argue both sides and it gets ugly quick.
Yeah, well, when you have kids and you worry about kids getting hurt, that's when people get really invested in
Right.
it. No parent wants their kid to get hurt, and that's on both sides of it. They'll say vaccinate your kid so my kid doesn't get hurt. And people will say, well, I'm not going to vaccinate my kid because I don't want them to get hurt. There's a third beast in that, and that's the person with the vaccines, and I don't think those people have your best interest at heart. I think it's a money game.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to, figure out someone's intentions when it's like a giant corporation or a giant something. You really don't know the intentions of what they're doing.
Well, you do. Their intentions are to make money. A big corporation's intentions are to make money. No one's doing it for free. Pharmaceutical companies aren't doing it for free, and they're not doing it for the love of the disease. They're not doing it because they want to cure cancer. They're doing it to make money. You might get into it originally with good intentions, but eventually everyone just becomes corrupted by the almighty dollar, and at a certain point, a lot of people's souls are for sale.
And it's not even necessarily always about the money. It just could be about the bureaucracy or
the power.
yeah, the power, or it just can't happen. Like I have a friend who's a cop. He's a good friend. He's in South Central LA in the gang unit, dude. So he sees the worst of the worst, and he's pretty much like, yeah, bro, I'm just trying to shove the shit back to where it belongs. And I've known him
Yeah.
for my whole life. And before he's like, yeah, I'm gonna make a difference. I'm gonna help him. I'm gonna change the world. And and like I said, he just changed. It just changed him because he knew that that was just him being naive. And it's sad, but it's true, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I don't have a criminal history. I don't have an issue with law enforcement, but there's definitely a huge issue with law enforcement in our society. There's a lot of corruption, and they hire. I shouldn't say that, generally speaking, but you can go on YouTube and clearly see the types of idiots that get hired to wield a gun and a badge. And that's a scary thing. And as a person who doesn't have a criminal history, and I do have friends in law enforcement. In fact, one of the guys that I bought guns for from the longest time, he was my FFL. He was my gun dealer.
Right.
I'd go to his house and buy guns. So I've got friends on that side, but that's not going to stop me from saying that there's corrupt individuals out there, and departments, with a gun and a badge.
Yeah, for sure. It's like I come to this analogy a lot. Oh, before I forget, Method Man, some misinformation here. Vaccinations are very important for your children. Okay, yes, get your kids vaccinated. Next, yeah, like I use this analogy a lot. An iPhone or whatever phone you use or whatever technology you just can have in your mind. Think about having millions of them just being made, and then even though you have the best QC quality control or the best, technology to make this piece of technology, and you have a bunch of people trying to do it perfectly, out of millions, one, two, or three, or a certain percentage of them are going to be screwed up even though
Maybe.
you did your best to stop it. Or even in nature, dude, like let's say there's a litter of pigs and then there's seven and then one of them dies. It's just that. And
Right,
that,
but that's kind of the fairy tale theory, where you say like, oh, there's only a couple that are corrupt, or there's only a couple that are bad, and that's more wishful thinking on your part, and maybe playing the odds. But I think that's more of an emotional reaction, because when that's like saying not all the Nazis were bad, just a few of them, But when you sign up to go play on that team and you don't stop them, does that make you part of the problem, part of the solution?
yeah, but again, like to my point, Nazis were compared to the world, the population of the world. Like if the world was actually messed up, or if most people were messed up, I think we would really know it. Like I think the world has always been like this. I think the world has always been quote unquote falling or on the verge of ending. There's always been conflict, dude. Like back in the 1500s, if you stole something from me, we would have you hung in in front of everyone, dude. Like the world has been messed up, but if it was really that bad, I think we would notice. Like things would be different. I go outside and it's even here, dude. Like I go outside and if someone needs help, like they'll help me.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah, I think the person is good. I think a person is good at heart, but I think people become shitty to each other. And I think when you get in groups, I think when you get individually, that's when you'll find the few in between that it's like, man, that guy's a real asshole, like at heart, like his soul is shit.
well, yeah. So
But as people become like a community and stuff, that's when it starts to overtake, and then you have to look at it as a whole because it affects you as a whole.
right,
You look at Canada, and they just outlawed free speech.
it's scary
Like
stuff, dude.
like that, do you feel like that's getting better or that's getting worse?
Well, it goes to that for me worse, but again, it depends whose like lens we're looking at of. But what I think you're trying to get at, and I agree with you here, is when we belong to tribes, right? Like it just becomes tribal. Like I'm on this team and you're on that team, and I want my team to win, and I don't care about you or your team. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So
right.
I think it becomes very tribal, and that's I think can be bad. But again, there's a lot of benefits to being in a in a tight knit community. But when it comes to you versus that community is when they can get pretty toxic.
Yeah, and then I think that that's where the mindset of, I need to act in a way that does not negatively affect people, not just my tribe, but everybody. And then when you start taking away people's freedoms, that I think that lets you know you're on the wrong side. When
Right.
you start to tell people you have to talk this way because it hurts my feelings, it's like, well, you're taking away a right from someone to better yourself. I don't think you're on the right side.
Yeah, yeah. And
But going back to the vaccines, because you snuck that in kind of quick and said vaccinate your kids. Which vaccines do you think are good for kids?
which vaccine? Whatever a doctor recommends, I'm gonna go ahead and follow that.
Do you know how many vaccines your child will have?
Wait, isn't it like five within like a few weeks or something like that?
You should do the research on that and figure out how many vaccines they try to give your kids just in the first couple years of their life.
Yeah, so again, I have to go back to the like the professionals. And at the
Right.
end of the day,
So
at
go
the end
back
of
to the
the day,
professionals, but keep in mind who it is that gets a paycheck for pushing the shit. And
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't I don't know if you have friends or family that have that are nurses, but like Shelby's mom has been a nurse her entire life. I talk to people that are nurses, and they tell me all the time that you don't go to a hospital to get better. You go there to get put on drugs. You go there to get put on prescriptions. And you look at the epidemic of prescriptions. Those are the medical professionals that are pushing all of that into society.
Yeah, I think that's a definitely broad or a broad statement saying that the whole medical field, like my doctor, I go get a physical every year. Sometimes I have some pains or sometimes I have certain symptoms. I rarely go out of there with any drugs. He's like, "Hey, dude, well, you should see these stretches and you should do this." And you know what I'm saying? Like he doesn't give me anything for drugs.
Right.
And so it just depends on your experience and how your experiences are going to shape the way you see the world. You know what I'm saying?
Well, these
But
aren't my experiences because I don't go to the doctor, and I very rarely have ever had to go to the doctor. I've always been a fit young man, but I've had experiences where I've messed up my back and had to go in, and I told them like, listen, I don't want hard drugs. I don't want it. And the doctor actually on three different occasions of me trying to leave was like, are you sure you don't want anything? We got pretty good drugs. You sure you don't? Let me just write you something. And I was telling him I don't want any drugs at all, that I would just toughen out the pain. I don't want anything. And he kept trying to push it.
right, right.
But I'm talking about the experiences of talking to nurses, and I'm not talking about the medical professional field, because when you talk to nurses, nurses genuinely want to help people. Like nurses, like they're through they're doing the shitty stuff, and a lot of them have huge hearts, and
Oh
they're
yeah.
made to care for people. But then you get doctors that are just in and out, don't look at you. Here's some prescription, take this. And those are the guys getting the bonus for the prescription drugs. It's not the nurses. You talk to the nurses and get their opinions, and I think that your opinion would change on it.
No, I have friends that are in the nursing field. I have family members that are in the nursing field. I have a good friend who's doing his residency as a doctor. Um, yeah, no, for sure the system's fucked up, like for sure. Like especially like in Florida, did you hear that with all the Oxycontin, like oh, have back pain, they will give them 90-day supply of essentially heroin. And then these
Yeah,
people get on the like again, I'm agreeing with you, but at the end of the day, I'm not a doctor. So
right.
it could be, yeah, they have a bias and they have something they want to push, maybe because they want to for okay, the company for sure wants to make money, but the doctors again, like at
They're
least
the medical professional. That's who we have to trust, right?
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
you're saying.
yeah, essentially
Okay,
like
well let me ask you this then. Do you agree with abortion?
do I agree with abortion? Dude, that's so complicated. For me,
Do you agree with late term abortion?
dude, in
We'll
New
just go
York,
late term.
that yeah, third term, dude, yeah, I know all of this, but again, like no, I wouldn't want a baby to get aborted. No.
Okay, so when you have a medical professional that's willing to do it, a late term abortion, we won't even talk about early term. If you have a medical professional that's willing to do a late term abortion, do you not think that you should maybe question what's wrong with that human being? That's a medical professional where you just sort of give this broad statement of, well, they're medical professionals, so they're going to know what's the best to do.
Yeah, that's very tricky, right? Like the abortion thing for sure is very tricky, and especially now because before the whole like the whole thing was about making it, you know, rare, safe, and available. Wasn't they were like pushing that, you know, a few years ago, how abortion should be. I'm talking about the Democrats clearly. How abortion should be rare, it should be safe, and it should be accessible for whoever needs it. But now, like you're mentioning, the Democrats and certain medical professionals are saying, you know, third trimester, even when the woman's about to give birth. Um, yeah, I don't agree with that. I think we could all. I mean, at least I don't agree with that. But again, it's
Well,
like
I mean, agree with it or not, you have medical professionals that are saying that that's okay.
right,
So you got to just, I think that you're not attitude, but I think your mindset of we should trust them, because I think that that's flawed. I think that you shouldn't necessarily just put it in the hands of someone you feel is smarter than you.
right.
I
So
think that you
let's say this.
should,
What about if like chemotherapy?
yeah.
Like if you have cancer, like would you want to get chemotherapy?
Would I do chemotherapy if I had cancer?
Yeah.
What I would do is explore CBD and cannabis first.
Is it
But
CBD? Dude, that's crazy. Like just to touch on that for a second, like the benefits of that have
dude,
really
it's amazing.
yeah.
It's like you're hearing crazy shit about it, you know. But these are but medical professionals almost across the board say that no, that shouldn't be legalized. It shouldn't be an option. We shouldn't use that versus chemo. So they're saying, let's do chemo first. Let's try that.
Right, right.
I mean, if
I'm
that's
reading the
your,
chat, sorry. They're going crazy on me now.
if
You brought up abortion, bro. Thank you.
great.
Uh
Well, we're supposed to be talking about homesteading.
yeah,
What,
homesteading, dude.
what happened?
Let's see, hold on. No, what do you would abort a healthy baby in the third trimester for problem babies? Yeah, I don't know, dude. That's just crazy, man. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is that I think abortions um are very tricky, and I'll just leave it at that. Because I mean, again, trying to see it both ways, but I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about this again some other time, but just prime the people to know that we're gonna.
I have no, like, I don't even want to talk about abortion. My only point is that you'll have medical professionals that might think one thing or think the other. So which one do you choose? Which one knows what they're talking about? You know, when you classify them as the medical professional, but they both have conflicting opinions, which one now do you choose? You know, you got to come up with the I think you got to come up with the answer yourself. You know, when you have kids and you do the research on it, you'll decide whether or not you're going to pump a bunch of vaccines into them, you know, and or which ones and or at what time, you know, and that's going to be up to you as as a parent. And I don't think anyone else should dictate that.
Right, yeah, it goes back to that. Like you take as much information as you think, and then you're gonna do what you think is best for you and your family. And
Yeah.
uh, but then there's some things, you know, that are tricky because they're the exact opposite of other people's belief system, and that's when it becomes complicated.
Right. Yeah. Cause there's a lot of people that'll, they like the argument of, well, you didn't vaccinate your kid. So he came to school and got my kid sick with the flu and my kid was vaccinated, which I just find funny because if your kid was vaccinated, how did they get the flu? You know what I mean? Why are you getting a vaccine to stop you from getting the flu if you got the flu from someone who didn't get the vaccine?
Yeah, but
You
like
know,
the
you're
flu is like a common, like what about like the measles and like certain vaccines that are more, you know.
yeah, for sure. So that's what I'm like. That's what I'm saying. Each one needs to be thought of. It's not like go get vaccinated. Each one is its own beast, and you should research it and say, I want this one, and that one, but I'm not into that one. You know what I mean? Like to just go across the spectrum and say vaccines are good, give them to me, I'll take them all. That could get dangerous.
Yeah, so yeah, that's where it becomes tricky because just saying, like you said, the flu's, I mean, I think a lot of people die of the flu. It's at least I don't remember the exact number, but I remember I was told about it and I was like, holy crap, I can't believe people are still dying from the flu. But when it comes to like polio, the measles, other pathogens, like yeah, oh, here's a statement from Silverback Stacker. If your kids are homeschooled and you don't vaccinate, won't the kids be like Native Americans, not exposed to common pathogens when they go outside into the world?
No, I mean my kids are out in the world. They're not out in the world. The one thing about public school in particular, just like a hospital, is like it's the cesspool for disease. Like it's the place to go to get sick. Like medical professionals will tell you they always get sick. It doesn't matter, and they're forced to get the flu shot. People who work for the school district, these are like the hot spots for sickness. They're gonna get that kind of stuff. And I also didn't say that I don't vaccinate my kids. I just don't give them the flu. We just don't get flu shots.
Right, right.
But we go out into public, we go out into stores. My kids play sports with other kids as well, but my kids live a different lifestyle where we're outside the majority of the time. Our systems aren't being weakened by that severe cold, severe hot, severe cold, severe hot. And that's something that I realized when we lived at our old house, and doing the day-to-day thing. Our house was always really warm. I would go outside and work construction, and every year I would have one time a year when I would just get like the flu really bad, 24 hours sick, done. That was it. And I think it was because you were changing from the temperature extremes. I think it wears down on your body. That's just my theory.
Let's see. Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, Silverback says, but getting sick builds your immune system. So
That's true. Getting sick does build your immune system. Living on a farm will build your immune system as well.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, so chat,
That's like they say that plumbers are never sick and they've got the best immune systems.
I wonder why.
It's disgusting, but it's true.
Yeah. Eat more garlic, Dime Digger. Shout out to you, dude. We've been going for 90 minutes, dude. Holy shit, 90 minutes. Um, do you want to keep going or
No,
no?
I should actually get off. My wife just sent me a text. She's not feeling well, so I'm going to go in and probably check on her. You
Okay.
completely derailed this entire conversation. I don't even know what you're going to talk about next.
Yeah, no. I was gonna talk about religion, but you tapped out, so it's fine. I'm just playing, y'all. Okay, chat. I'm sorry this went off the rails a little bit, but just know, I respect whatever you think is best and your opinion, and I would love to hear your opinion. And I think the world is more gray than just black and white. So, like I mentioned before, we have to do our best to, try to understand and hear each other's opinion, and just be respectful to each other, and I guess love each other.
Yeah, I agree. I'll buy that.
All right. Is there anything else you want to tell the chat? Anything? Shout out to Redneck Stacker. He's been plugging your link.
Yeah,
I'm sure most of these people are sub to you, but let them know. Plug whatever you want to plug.
yeah. For any of you guys that stayed till the end of it, I appreciate it. I think anytime we get off topic and get crazy, I just expect people to bail and be like, "What is this guy talking about?" But thanks for coming, guys. Thanks for sticking it out, Redneck Stacker. Thanks for hooking me up on the chat.
Sweet, man. All right. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate your hour and a half here, and I hope we can do this again sometime. But we'll see where the conversation goes. And then you chat, all of you, Novice. Shout out to you, Terry, Corner Ring Guy, Pitt, Dime, SJ, all of you. I really appreciate you guys a ton, and thank you so much for hanging out. And shout out to you, WB. I caught you there, and I'll see you guys next Thursday. Have a good one.